Good evening, everyone. When we think of marijuana laws, the first thing that comes to mind is the legalization of cannabis. I bet some of you in here went to a cannabis dispensary before coming here tonight, right? For most of us here, we would not have any consequences or threats to possess or to be suspected of possessing cannabis in our private home. But what if I told you that's not the case for people in public housing, what we call NYCHA here in New York City, who cannot possess cannabis in their private home, and they are not afforded the same privacy rights that we are? Now, my dissertation tries to understand this, looking at why certain people are afforded these rights, and I demonstrate it is where you live, how poor or rich you are, and your race that matters. Now, for my research, I visited the National Archives and the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and I went to the New York State Archives in Albany. I searched over 35,000 pages of documents, looking at every marijuana possession law over time in debates and hearings, spanning 70 years from 1950 to 2020. And I found two things. First, in the 1990s, advocacy organizations, the media, and politicians warned us about there were too many white college students who were arrested for marijuana possession, that there were too many collateral consequences in their life, that an arrest or incarceration could ruin their life. In turn, the 1972 commission was formed, and this commission combed through every angle, came up with everything possible and a solution, and the solution was to decriminalize marijuana possession in one's home. Now, the commission said there was a right to privacy, a constitutional right as strong as any foundation in this country. But let's move to the 1980s, actually, from this, when crime was rampant in cities like New York, and Congress passed drug-free legislation that basically banned the possession of marijuana possession in public housing buildings. This meant every resident was at risk of eviction if any of the family members, a guest, or a guest of a guest, possessed or was suspected of possessing marijuana possession anywhere on the premises, and this included any drugs. Throughout my research, and you'll be actually interested in this finding, there was never a mention of any rights of law-abiding residents. And there was no mention of a right to privacy. Remember, a right to privacy that is as strong as any foundation in this country. The second finding is that there are few rights on or near public housing buildings, and in comparison to public homes. And so I researched the New York State marijuana law of 1977, which criminalized marijuana possession in public. And policing in the 1990s was ramped up in neighborhoods with public housing buildings. As a result, I found that these neighborhoods had the highest rate of black people, also had the highest rate of marijuana possession and arrest, contributing to the highest rate of unemployment and poverty. So we ask, why are some deemed unworthy of the rights and dignity afforded to everyone? And I want you to consider your own privileges. I urge you to consider the plight of black communities, too, while you're doing that. And so put your shoes in the hands of the grandmother here, facing between the risk of eviction and love of her family, her day fears driven by the suspicion of her children and their grandchildren for possessing cannabis, and also for being suspected of possessing cannabis. Might be arrested for possessing cannabis or suspected as well, leading to the entire family being evicted to the streets. What would you do if you were in her shoes? Thank you.